Going to go for two here.
He's going for two.
If you don't make this, you lose. If you make it, you're in a position to win.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
That's just a heavy play.
Going to go for two here. Go for two here.
Got him! One-handed catch as he goes up and gets it.
All right, guys, welcome back. We had our week off. As you can see, Chad's not here today.
Still got on vacation.
Yeah, I know what everyone's thinking. And yes, that means total engagements on the show have dropped by 60%. And he's going to kill us for that, I know. But yeah, I mean, it's good to be back. Good to see you guys. I'm sure we all enjoyed our week off, but now we're back. Now, right off the top, we had some pretty rough starting of the day news with the Tiger Woods thing breaking.
Yeah.
It seems like he's going to be okay from everything that I've heard, but I'm going to let you take it away, Kaylin, because you were actually the one that sent it to me.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of wild rumors about what went down. So the first time that I read and heard about it, the conversation was that the jaws of life were used on him and that he was in for surgeries on his legs or something like that. Now, the surgery on his legs, from what I understand, it still happened, but there was no jaws of life. The sheriff said that he was conscious and didn't look intoxicated or anything. So the whole, Tiger must have been drugged up again story isn't really going to work or fly this time. But for me, I'm just bummed, man. Like, he was just handing out a trophy a couple of days ago. People were bugging about coming and playing in the Masters, and he kind of just said, let me get through tomorrow. Like, I just had this surgery on my back, but it was the Masters. Like, Tiger was going to play. That was the way that I viewed it, and that's the Masters to me, at least for the next few more years. It will be anyway, and then I'll have to find a new guy to kind of cheer for when it comes to that. But that's the upsetting news for me. It sounds like the surgeries are actually happening, and even a minor surgery means that you're not playing in the Masters in a few weeks. So,
right. Well, I mean, good news is that it seems like at least like from a life perspective, he's alive, and whether he plays golf again, I mean, whether he plays golf again anytime soon, that's going to be up to the doctors. But it's just good news that he's safe and healthy, whatever. Yeah. But I had something that we were going to lead off with, and we had to bump it for Tiger because obviously that was bigger news.
Golf goat.
Yeah, but this is glad you said goat. Can you believe that Sidney Crosby has now played over 1,000 games for the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Real good segue there, Shane. Can you tell you're a Pens fan or what?
Watching the Pens game right now while we're doing this. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy I remember I was still in high school when the guy was drafted, and when he played in the Mem Cup down here, like, to see where his career has gone, it's kind of sucked that it's been in my division and I've had to go against him the countless years as we have. He's kind of been the Peyton Manning for me in the NHL, but he's been a consummate pro. He's led every team that he's ever been on, like on every Pens team he's been. He's obviously a leader, but the Canadian teams too. He's been incredible. And I know I brought it up before, but Kyle, he has a big thing for Connor McDavid, and we were talking about this 1,000th game, and there's the comparison. I don't know if you had happened to see it when Connor McDavid had gotten his 500th point or something like that and matched Crosby's. It was the exact same. So I think it's special. Crosby's special. It's special that we got to see him as long as we have. And I don't know about you as being a Pens fan. You may have to tell me, is the rumors true? Do you think he's going to get traded out, or do you think he's going to be like the typical Pittsburgh player that just finishes his career in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, like, they've taken on new management, so it's difficult to say what Hextall would do, but the Penguins aren't typically a team to ship out players. They're always like giving up their first round pick.
Yeah, here's my draft picks.
Yeah, they're always trying to build for now. So the idea that they would get rid of, which is now, and this was mind blowing to me, he's now played more games for the Penguins than Mario Lemieux did.
Yeah, you dropped that on me right before we went on doing this, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought Lemieux had just played forever. Like, I knew he took some time off and came back or whatever there, but
a couple times,
I felt like he just played forever.
And
then I guess Crosby has.
Yeah, I mean, Lemieux, I can't even think of his draft year off the top of my head, but it's got to be in the 86, 87 range. And he played his final game like with Sidney Crosby. So that's how – so it was spread across, I guess that's what, like 19 years? That makes sense. He had his back problems, plus he he had the bout with cancer that he came back from. But it's just amazing that, a guy like Crosby, who is actually, he's drafted by Lemieux, he's brought in, he's Lemieux's guy, and he passed him in that, but that's the only thing he's passed him in. So
Yeah, and then that's kind of neat too. Him coming like, where would Crosby have been if he didn't have the leadership of Lemieux off the hop? If he wasn't able to live with that guy in his first 4 or 5 years, to have Lemieux play with him and learn from him like that and have that, we don't never know, of course, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, leading into the Penguins there, another thing that was brought up when we were talking about it this week is we got talking about Crosby's 1,000th game and such, and there was a conversation amongst some friends of mine, and there was Marc-Andre Fleury was brought up, and the topic was brought up that he may be arguably like the top 3 goaltender of all time, certainly one of the better goaltenders in our generation, beyond Brodeur, like the newer, that newer field. So as a Penguins fan, and I know he didn't leave in the highest regard when he was drafted by the Golden Knights, and there was the rumors of him getting traded in the offseason, and he just continues to play well. I kind of countered that and felt that he wasn't top 3. But I know you're not always a homer. What do you think? What do you think about that statement?
So it's a crazy statement, and I'm going to reference something that you wrote earlier this year about Waugh and Brodeur, because definitely you can make a case for both of those guys being the best, which means if you have 1 and 2 there, you have to assume that you're putting Marc-Andre Fleury above a guy like Carey Price, Dominic Hasek, like an Ed Belfour, who I guess, I don't know statistically, like off the top of my head what he would have been like, but that guy, he was a dominant player in the late 90s. I just don't see Fleury being that guy. Was he a top 3 goalie of our generation, or like our decade that he's been in the league? Maybe.
Yeah.
But and that's gonna sound like I'm being harsh to him and that he left. I actually
one
really
of the few
like
Pittsburgh people that didn't finish in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you know what? Like I do like Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm happy that he found a place to play there.
Yeah.
He was kind of given a tough shake. Like they were always a contender with that guy, and Matt Murray just happened to get hot at the right time while Fleury was hurt, and it's tough to watch a guy lose his job to injury. So like I'm happy for him, but somebody getting a shutout, or I guess he's got 3 shutouts this year.
Did you see? Yeah, he's actually got last night. His shutout was 64th in his career, so now he's tied for 16th with Lundqvist. So he's moving up the ranks, but I mean, he's still got some ways to go, of course, right?
Well, and there's another one, right? You just said Lundqvist, so I mean, I'm willing to put Lundqvist ahead of Marc-Andre Fleury, even though he doesn't have like the winning record.
Hardware.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, Carey Price doesn't have it either. But I mean, there's no debating that if you were building a super team in the NHL, that Carey Price is your goalie. Like right now. I mean, how could you not?
I 100% agree with you on that one. And then just one more little side note to the Vegas team here. I mentioned this to the team, to the boys the other day. It's an absolute shame they don't rock their golden helmets every home game. Like, to allow Fleury to have those shimmer and gold pads, and they just go back to these dull black helmets after having those Notre Dame type like helmets. It's an absolute shame. They really got to do something with that.
Geez, that's a shout out for Chad too, eh? But and I guess we're gonna go into this next, so I'll just bring it up now.
Sure.
The Lake Tahoe games, they happened. The backdrop was amazing.
Beautiful.
What I was gonna bring up from it right away was the jerseys that the Golden Knights wore on that during that, like the red ones. They're pretty sick.
Yeah, they were pretty unique, man. Everybody's jersey looked kind of cool, but everything Vegas does, I dig. Like, they just got cool chants. They got those cool jerseys, like the regular jerseys, those that inaugural jerseys they're using there. They're just a really fun team, man. Really, all in all.
Right. And from that game, I mean, I'm not so sure it's fair to call what happened on Saturday a game if they're going to be starting at.
You know what it reminded me of was the Titans game when they had like that 12-hour game and they just kept going and because of the rain.
It's like, it makes no sense. I mean, at that point, wouldn't you have rather just restart the game? I mean, it's not like I didn't have any money or anything on the game, so I don't really care. But how are you going to play the first period and then wait 9 hours and then play the second 2?
I know, right? And thank God those teams were at least Western-ish teams to deal with that kind of crap, because That's really difficult to play 9 hours later like that.
Yeah, how could nobody have known that the sun was going to suck for them? I don't get it.
Well, did you see Gary Bettman? He's like, this is the perfect worst day ever. If you look at the sky, the clouds are covering everywhere but the sun. So what was your plan B, man? Like I
Right.
talked to you about this before we came on. I just these outdoor series, these stadium series, I just feel like they've all sucked. The teams they've picked have been good games. Like they're games that should be valuable to watch. And we get stuck with the Anaheim outdoor. Remember that California game they did then? Like,
Yeah.
and I went to the New Jersey Rangers game at the Yankee Stadium. That was so cold, Shane. It was unenjoyable. You go talk about the Red Wings game they had at Ann Arbor. They talked about the beer taps frozen. They couldn't even pour beer. I mean, it's a fun story to talk about, but I painted arm and a leg for those tickets, plus the flight and everything to get down there. It just wasn't an enjoyable experience, and I feel like Bettman needs to kind of figure it out. Like O'Keefe had mentioned, they should have done it in the Rockies or something. Now, it's hard to do it there because of Mile High and the altitude and everything, but that makes more sense. Right? Like a place that's not going to get smashed by the weather, it's kind of protected by the mountains, and it's still got the beautiful backdrop that you want for a good show.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the biggest takeaway that I had from it was I would definitely like to go to Lake Tahoe someday.
Hey, didn't your boy get in trouble there?
Oh, allegedly he did, from what I hear. Got himself into some trouble at a golf tournament. But
I hear he's sticking around too. He had a meeting with the owner today or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been banging this drum since they lost to the Browns, right? I told you that they were going to work on an extension. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 years. He's not going to play all the years, but it's going to be he's going to take some cap hits, but they're going to be spread out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it makes sense, and I know this wasn't even on our slate to talk about, but we're going to talk about it anyway because I want to talk about it.
I figured.
By them just reducing his base salary into like $1 million a year and paying him everything else that he's guaranteed in bonuses, they free up $19 million this year.
Jeez.
That puts them under the cap already, and they have a lot of people that they can restructure and re-sign. This is not something that the Steelers would normally do, but this year they're going to be a player in free agency.
It's going to be an interesting play for you guys, yeah, because it's the last waning years, really. I know you're obviously got a defense that can stick around, but the offense is not really chugging along. So if they're going to make a move, it's got to be now, no doubt.
Yeah, well, and it gives old Dewey Haskins a year to play under Roethlisberger, see if he can learn the system. But,
I wondered if your butthole puckered up a little bit last week there when there was the talk coming out about I think it was the assistant GM that had the conversation about Roethlisberger and had said that the pieces all have to fall in the right place, and it really was a pessimistic sounding conversation that he had with the media.
So. Yeah, well, when it comes down to it, and like we'll do this and then we'll move on to because we got a little bit more hockey to break down.
Yeah, man.
But when it comes down to Pittsburgh, it's the Rooneys make the decision. Period. Mm-hmm. Colbert has been the GM there for a long time. Tomlin has been the coach there for a long time. Bill Cowher was there before that. But the Rooneys decide who stays and goes, and the Rooneys love Roethlisberger. But
no doubt.
We'll leave it there. Roethlisberger leaves on his own terms for sure.
Yeah.
But where do we start with this NHL season the way that it is? I was looking at some of the divisions.
Mm-hmm.
One that popped me right away was the West Division.
Yeah.
Have you looked at it?
Yeah, they got some players there. I watched the Calgary Vegas game last night. That was fun. Kadri got robbed twice by Fleury. I don't know if you got the chance to see that or not. It's a fun division to watch, but I still think it's pretty top heavy. There's only, I think, really 3 heavy teams there. If you look at a division like the East, I know I'm kind of being a homer here because our teams are in there, but everyone in that division outside of maybe the Sabres can make a move. And I'm saying that lately even about the Devils one because they played the Bruins very well this year, and the Bruins are owning that division.
Right.
But all in all, yeah, the East I think is pretty strong. What I've really noticed here is, man, the Canadian teams are terrible. And that has not been an enjoyable thing to watch. It's only been fun because they're Canadian teams that are playing against each other. Right. Overall, the hockey has not been good. Last night's game, I don't know how long Frederik Andersen's going to be out for, so that'll be an interesting play there. But last night's game, they looked terrible. The Leafs, they had zero offense. Matthews was kind of clustered all over the place. It felt like, and lose to a team like Calgary.
Yeah, well, I mean, we weren't shooting last week, but what happened to them last week was a little bit disturbing too. If I was a Leafs fan,
With the Ottawa game,
yeah,
yeah, noise the next game. No doubt to say you guys can do that, we can do it too. But yeah, that's crazy. That just shows that exposes them that that anybody can take them on. And Frederick Anderson, as much as he's been asked to bail them out since he's been there, it's starting to finally catch up. I feel, and that injury didn't look nice, so he could be out for some time.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as that Canadian division goes, like we can kind of see that the Leafs are separating themselves a little bit. The Canadians have been a surprising team, but I'm going to ask you about a team that's disappointing you in that division, and I have one. We might even be the same one, but in the North Division, who's disappointing you right now?
In the North?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's got to be Vancouver. O'Keefe the other day had brought this up. There's no reason for them to not be good. They've got Quinn Hughes there. They've got Patterson there. They've got oh my god, I can't remember the other two guys that are really, really good there anyway right now. And they filled in their goalie spot. Like they have probably the better goalie tandem in the NHL. So I don't know what the heck's going on there. Hopefully the second half of the season treats them better than the first half. It doesn't seem like, it sucks playing in Vancouver because typically your travel is just more than anybody else. This year, so far, it's not been that bad. Everybody's kind of done it equally, but they still are, I would still say, traveling more than other people. Maybe that's taking a toll on them, but I don't get it. That's the only team for me that's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely don't seem like they are the team that I was expecting them to be. I thought when it was coming to the fourth team that was going to make it, I thought it was going to be a fight between Calgary and Montreal. And it just doesn't seem like Vancouver's really in the fight. We're still early. What are we, like a month into the season? So
yeah, we're like 18 games. So
like let's not write anybody off, but unless Vancouver can figure it out quickly, they're going to have a hole that they can't get themselves out of. And then, in that division, like I think that it's pretty clear the Leafs and the Oilers would be the class of that division. So
yeah. And that being said, like if you got two teams like that are obviously building their teams around two significant players here and two players that are running for the Rocket Richard Trophy this year, who would you prefer to build around if you had the opportunity, given the players' talent level where it is, contracts or whatever they're the same? Who do you build around? Do you take Connor McDavid or do you take Austin Matthews, and why?
Well, for me, I'm going to take Connor McDavid, and it's not because I think that he's more skilled, but I would picture him as being a better leader. And I should put in my disclaimer, I do think that he's more skilled. I'm not saying that Matthews isn't more skilled, but the overall greatness of what McDavid can do, I would trust that in the locker room. The guy, every time he's on the ice, it's electric. Now, when I look at a guy like Matthews, I think, wow, just another enormous talent, but he only turns it on when he wants to. And when he does, it's amazing. But when he doesn't, he disappears.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
If you had asked me before the season, I would have slid towards Matthews. But this season specifically, even though he's playing very, very well, when he turns off, you're right, he does turn off. I don't think I've yet to see Connor McDavid turn off his game. Doesn't matter if they're winning or they're losing. The one thing that I think skill-wise, you mentioned that. I will counter that. I think that Matthews has a better two-way player than McDavid. But McDavid,
two-way player for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Offensively, though, McDavid is just so frigging fast.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is something that we've talked about this with NFL. You can't teach speed. And he catches so many people flat-footed, whereas Matthews is going to dangle you out of your skates. McDavid just going to catch you flat and just go right by you, right? So, yeah, I would side with you too. I'd probably pick McDavid there as well. I'm probably going to get some heat there from the Leafs fans that are around this area, but that's it is what it is, right?
We support the Canadian. But
that's right.
No disrespect, but one last thing for hockey that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that a lot of people that aren't standings watching or watching outside of the North Division would realize.
Mhm.
Carolina, Hurricanes, and Florida, uh, they both have 10 plus wins. And you brought up something very valid, so I'm going to let you take over from there.
Yeah.
Tell us why they have so many wins.
Well, my disappointing thing there, we're talking about disappointing team in that one division. A disappointing team in the NHL for me would be a team like Nashville or like Dallas. Mind you, Dallas I don't think Dallas is missing games or something like that too.
Yeah.
However, there's a reason why Carolina and Florida are in the lead there. They've lost games or won games against these other teams. If you look at the top 3 of the 4 teams in that division, Shane, I highly doubt that any one of us on the outside looking in the beginning of the season were thinking that was the way it was going to line up. Like
Yeah.
Chicago, I went into the season talking about how Chicago was going to be a rough year for them. They had the rough start to the season, and remember we had the episode where I had said, what did I learn so far in the beginning of the season was that it was going to be a long year in Chicago. It may not be. They don't even need Taze. They've been able to prove that. They haven't had to brink it. They've done this with a bunch of kids and a goaltender who O'Keefe will tell you everybody should have known about because, of course, he's a homer. But really, in all reality, it's like nobody knew this goaltender. The way that team is playing. And like you mentioned, Carolina and Florida, of course, Tampa Bay being there. But teams like Dallas and Nashville, like what are they doing down there at the bottom of the division like that? That's just not the way it should be, right? So
Nashville is, it seems like defensively Nashville's been having a hard time. And yeah, I mean, as far as Chicago, we pretty much took their franchise away from them after the first week. We were ready to move those guys up to Quebec City and like get out of like you're a waste of space. But yeah, they proved us wrong. And maybe not next week, but the week after, we're gonna have Mike on, and Mike is a big Chicago fan, and he's gonna give us maybe a little bit more insight. Now, hopefully we haven't jinxed them by then, because
this is what happens though. Whenever we talk good about a team, man.
Yeah, and you know what? And in the spirit of that, I want to pivot to NCAA basketball for a second.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that I can reverse the lucks of at least one team, because we're getting close to March Madness. Call it, I guess we're roughly a month away from the actual tournament starting. So every team probably has 5 or 6 games left, plus their tournament. But for the first time, and I couldn't even go back to find this, I've gone back and looked, and I cannot find a tournament where Duke was not in it, Michigan State was not in it, Kentucky was not in it, North Carolina was not in it, and Kansas was below a 5 seed.
Wait, so I've not really paid much attention to this season. Are you telling me that out of all those teams, who can make it? Like, are we looking at one of those teams making, or
so?
Like
Kansas will make it in. They've been okay in a really, really good conference in the Big 12.
Okay.
Duke, they're done. They're
not going to make it.
Yeah, their lottery.
Now, was that because they folded their season, though, like you had mentioned before?
No. They were folding their season to try and get out of it because they realized that their team stunk. But even and the kid's name escapes me right now, but they have a lottery pick on their team that opted out of the season last week because he knows that there's just no point anymore. He's just done. He's going to go to get ready for the draft.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often, do you?
No.
Duke. Wow. And then who's the Michigan State? Really?
Michigan State. So Michigan State has an outside chance to get in.
Okay.
Right now they have 6 games left. They probably need to win 4 of those 6 games to be considered a bubble team.
Holy shit. It's been a really rough season, hasn't it?
Yeah. North Carolina, Tar Heels, they're a bubble team as it is.
Move it, raise up, huh?
And then Kentucky started off 1-6.
The Wildcats, really?
Yeah.
So who is the hot teams then? I know Alabama. I'm putting my foot in my mouth because I've had my friend Kenny been going up me about Alabama being a good team and start this season. Alabama, but traditionally to me, has never really been a good basketball team. They certainly have this year.
Yeah, they've been okay. The big teams this year, like Gonzaga, they're the number 1 team.
Okay.
Baylor is awesome.
Iowa, they're just a bunch of big men, right?
Yeah. Iowa has been pretty good. A team like Houston, but yeah, Houston Cougars are really good.
Interesting.
If I had to just look at it from 30,000 feet up and decide Final Four teams. The Big 12 will have a minimum of 2 teams in the Final Four.
Wow. Go Big
Yeah.
12. And
They-
where's the hook'em fall for you?
Yeah, they're not bad. They're one of the teams that's up there that should be a part of the Final Four. And
All right.
another team just to watch out for. I mean, when it comes to tournament time, is West Virginia, but we'll yeah.
The Volunteers or the Mountaineers.
Mountaineers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll dig deeper into the tournament after the next couple weeks go by, and I'm sure we'll have some kind of special where we're gonna pick a few games and tell you which 12 seeds are gonna win. But when we were talking about disappointing things and a different kind of sports year, how could we not bring up that? Because yeah, I mean,
That's
a
crazy.
tournament without the Blue Bloods, basically. I mean,
Well, I mean, and you look at myself, I'm not a guy who's a very avid basketball fan, but I know those are very big teams. And for them to not be in the tournament, what a wild year.
Yeah, I could assure you that the TV companies are not happy about it.
Yeah.
Like the 1 year that fans can't be there, I guess they might have like 20% or something. But imagine the fans that would be sitting at home watching, and you think the Blue Devils are going to tune into the tournament if they're not in it? No chance.
Nah, not a chance.
No chance.
Nah.
But just more proof to our formula on this show. I'm sure you can remember back a few weeks ago that we buried the Toronto Raptors. We fired the GM. We traded the whole roster. I think at one point, like I was playing point guard for them. Chad was playing the post just to save some cap room.
Well, to be fair, like Kyle Lowry basically sounded like he was begging to get himself out of Toronto.
It sure sounded like it, yeah. And then we gave him that going for 2 mojo, and now they're all the way up to 5th. I think when we were talking, they were like 13th or 12th. They were under 500, a complete disappointment. Now they're back in the thick of things. I mean, it's not like we're playing the games in Toronto right now, but they are getting back into a position where they might host a playoff series.
Yeah. I haven't really paid attention to much of their season the last couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I've been watching my team in free fall. But they haven't lost or to bad teams if they've lost, and they've actually beaten decent teams. Like I think they beat Washington the other night, which I know that some people
Washington stinks.
I don't know. I just love Bradley Beal. I think he's just a great player, and I hate to see what's going on down there with that franchise. But when they play the Raptors hard, there's certain teams that play each other very, very hard, and that's a team that plays hard against the Raptors historically. Well, and the Raptors have been able to come on top. So
they beat Philly. They beat Milwaukee. I mean,
I haven't got an idea what to think about Milwaukee, to be honest with you. I know where they are in the standings, but they're just so up and down and so reliant on one person. It's scary. I don't know how well that's gonna work. I know he's the reigning MVP, but
yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the 76ers of us being younger. You remember when Allen Iverson, like if he has an off game, they're toast?
Yeah.
That's how the Bucks are kind of like. It's not like the Bucks don't have anybody on the team, and it's not like that 76ers team back in the early 2000s didn't have other players on their team. Sure. It's just if you don't have the straw, you can't slurp the drink. I guess that's pretty much how it goes.
You nailed it.
If you were the Raptors right now, are you holding pat? Are you a buyer? I mean, you're definitely not a seller at this point.
I think I hate to say this, man, but there's a select few teams that are going for a championship this season. And I think that some teams I know that any given day, any given team can win a game, but there's only so many teams that can beat the healthy Lakers. There's only so many that can beat the Sixers in a 7-game series.
Right.
I just don't think that the Raptors have what it takes. And the longer they hold on to this, I mean, there's a very good chance Lowry's going to walk in the offseason and you're going to get nothing for him. I don't think that's your answer either. So
well, I think Lowry's signed for next year. Either that or it's a player option. I'm not 100% sure.
I think it was done after this year.
Yeah. I know that he's on the books for 30 next year, but I don't know if it's a player option or a team option or if it's just a contract. But it wouldn't surprise me if they hung on to him and just moved him in the offseason. But at the same time, if somebody gave you the right price for him, then I guess you would want to move on. But the teams that need him don't have any draft picks until 2030. So
Or the room, like the cap room
yeah,
for him either, right? That's the other thing. So
right.
I wouldn't
So
exactly call him. I don't know what you do. I think you sell. It's time to sell. You built around the highest paid player there, which is Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet. You see what you can make work.
all right. Well, yeah, we'll quickly go to another NBA team and say, you know, let's just say you were a Celtics fan for some reason,
Oh my
and
god! Oh,
and then they were really, really falling apart. What would you do with that roster?
see, that's the thing.
Hypothetically, right?
Yeah, hypothetically, yeah. See, I look at this team and I go, "What the hell is happening?" And then I have to look a little bit close. Like I've obviously watched all the games. Tatum was gone for a few with the vid. We've got Marcus Smart, who's down right now, but that doesn't matter. I mean, you've still got so much there with Kemba and Jaylen Brown. Um, you've got opportunity. You've got players that can play, that can ball. Tatum came back, and he has not been playing well since he's come back. He's had a
Right.
couple, but we're in free fall. We're 500 right now. That's not a 500 team. I don't think you have to blow up the roster to do anything about it. But one thing is for damn sure, you need a big man. And I don't think that Daniel Theis is going to be the answer. And I don't think that Tristan Thompson has shown that he can do anything to cover somebody like Joel Embiid or Giannis. Like you got to be hard in the paint. And none of the players on the Celtics, unfortunately, are hard in the paint besides Marcus Smart. And that's not going to happen as far as a defensive matchup, right? So,
Right. And
I don't know.
then yeah, I mean, I I think that the Celtics are going to be fine because at the end of the day, they're going to get healthy. They have too much talent on their team, and I would hate to be the 3 seed to play them if they're the 6 seed.
And
You
that's
know?
just it, right? It's that super weak East, and it doesn't matter if they're in, they're in. If they are a weak team, exactly, you're going to lose in your home area. That sucks. You're going to lose that.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been watching a little bit of Western Conference basketball because they usually start at 10 o'clock. And at that point, I'm either trying to recoup some winnings or
The kids are in bed, right? So you got some time to actually watch the sports,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And a team that keeps popping to me, and I don't understand how their record is so poor, is the Dallas Mavericks. You know what? Like they have some pretty decent talent on the roster,
Yeah.
and by no means is Porzingis the second coming of Dirk Nowitzki by any means. Like I don't even think you know, I'm not even a Dirk fan. He's not that. But how can they not be more competitive in what is a top heavy West?
Yeah. The big problem there that I think I've seen, I've never been a fan of KP. When he was in New York, I didn't like him there. There are certainly times that he fits an offense, but I feel that most offense are having to be forced to be designed around him, and I don't like that. Luka can make a game himself. Now, the other thing that I found that is happening with Dallas here is Luka's a flop artist. He's been doing it his whole career, and he got away with it for a long time. But the refs are starting to catch up, and other teams are starting to catch up on how to defend him too. And I think that's starting to kind of, he's got to change his game up a little bit now. We got to see Luka is an incredibly talented ball player. We've just got to see him elevate and evolve a little bit now as a ball player, and it's going to be interesting. But they are talking about a team in free fall. KP's been rumored to get traded. What kind of package are you going to get for KP? I have no idea. It's going to be a whole bunch of probably draft picks, which means that you're just giving up on your season, and I don't think that's the answer either.
Yeah, and like a team like Dallas with an owner like Mark Cuban, how has that not ever become a super team?
Well, I know as far as like a big three, I think.
Yeah.
I know maybe I could be wrong, but I think that and maybe he isn't anymore, but I feel that he was against it. Like there was something he did not enjoy about that. Like he always was a guy who kind of built a team like that. Well, he was kind of in that San Antonio era, right? So in San Antonio, it was all for one for all kind of thing. And I felt that Cuban kind of feels that way too.
Right. Well, I understand where he's coming from, but you got to get with the times, you know.
Yeah.
This guy's got boatloads and boatloads of money, and I understand there's a salary cap, so that's somewhat irrelevant. But there's ways that you can entice players to come, and all you need is one. Like
Yeah.
Porzingis is not that like Porzingis is a piece, but he's not one of those guys. So if I were Cuban talking to my general manager next year, I'd be like, look, what do we need to do to get whoever the hot free agent is and get him down to Dallas? Because like it's not like Dallas would be a bad place to live.
No. No state income tax.
And your owner is a multi-billionaire who
Yeah.
will probably get you a private jet and you'll be living the life down there.
Yeah. How
But
frustrating must it be to be a player like Trey Wayne's on like Atlanta and you're in the East and I mean your team's never not going to really do anything. Not this year, not last year. You know what I mean? You're walking that season just kind of looking up at the top 3 or top 4 in the East and they can't fucking compete with that shit this year.
yeah,
That's gonna be
and
frustrating.
that's Trey Young, right? Is that who you meant?
Yeah, Trey Young's or Trey Wayne's a football player. Yeah, Trey Young.
Yeah, yeah. I only knew that because he went to Michigan State, so I was like, I wonder if he transitioned into basketball. That's interesting.
That's why I brought him up because I didn't know how many basketball players you actually know that are current anymore from a random team like Atlanta.
But yeah, we were just talking a little bit of free agency in basketball, which is way too advanced. You know, we're gonna have our time to talk about the basketball trade deadline and the hockey trade deadline, and we know now that the MLB spring training is gonna happen on time, whether they're playing games, what they're doing. But the guys are in camp, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, they were in camp last year too, and they didn't end up playing until June. But I feel better about it this year. We're not going to get too in depth into baseball until the season actually starts. We get a little bit closer, but a season that we are just weeks away from is NFL free agency.
Yeah. Oh wait,
So
hold on. Before, I want to touch base real quick though on free agent stuff that happened with baseball. I read a really cool little article. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Yeah.
What was the name of that player that signed that massive deal with Pittsburgh?
It was San Diego, but yeah, Fernando Tatis Jr.
That's it. Did you see that when he was in high school, that a hedge fund or a private firm invested in him, and they basically loaned him money to get through college or get through the minors or whatever it was, and now they own a portion of his contract. So it's the first time that they've been able to recoup on a player so far, but they're going to end up making close to $35 million off of him.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then I think I read, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a meme that I had read, but Verlander had written a contract when he was in high school to somebody who said, let me borrow 50 cents and I'll give you 1% of my contract or whatever. And he's ended up having to pay out like $9 million of that so far.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's true, but it was kind of in the same blurb of this whole thing. So I have to think that it may be true.
It's true. Like Verlander was when he said it.
Oh my God, that's insane. Can you imagine having to pay like $9 million after a deal you made in high school for 50-cent chocolate milk? Mind you, he's probably really here's $9 million, man. He's throwing it away. Rich as hell, right?
Yeah, that's the wildest. I bet you like Kate Upton's not happy about it, but
no.
Yeah. When it comes to
free agent NFL,
we're gonna start off with what I consider to be a trade it's only a matter of time at this point. Desean Watson is going to play for the Carolina Panthers.
They are clearing cap. That is the rumor that I am hearing. That's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. It hasn't happened
yet. Almost a done deal. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they just wanted to see what chips would fall after the Carson Wentz trade and try and align those with the Stafford trade and the Goff trade and kind of make the values make sense, right? Obviously, Deshaun's worth more than all of those guys and arguably all of them combined even.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest winner in the Carson Wentz trade, which I guess we weren't on air for that either. The biggest winner in all that is the person that trades for Desean Watson, because like they just realized that okay, we don't have to give up 10 first-round picks to get this guy,
and part of ownership in our team.
yeah, it's gonna be probably close, like you said, to what the Stafford and Goff deal look like.
Yeah, maybe a little tweaked, right? A little more high-end power-wise, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers are likely going to have to give up the 8th or 7th pick, whatever they have this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a 3rd this year, and then the 1st next year.
Yeah.
And then you got Desean Watson.
Yeah.
I think I think that's okay. I think they'd be pretty comfortable with that. When it comes down to it, the person that I feel worse for in that is Teddy Bridgewater. But I mean, he'll land on his feet or his knee or whatever. I don't know. That guy, I feel bad for him. He's just, I don't know. He keeps getting a tough deal. He's kind of the same scenario as Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. Except I think he has a little bit more talent than Tyrod and a little less leadership ability. Like it's crazy how those players are just like accents of each other more or less.
Yeah, well, think about like a guy like Tyrod Taylor was going to be the starter for the Chargers all year until a doctor makes a mistake, and now we have a new rookie of the year. And then
right?
like, that's just the Tyrod Taylor effect.
Yeah.
So he's like good luck Chuck. He's the Dane Cook.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there any free agents to you that stand out that you can see like a clear home for, or like a rumor, maybe something that you read?
I'm a homer. You know this. And I stick to my
who
homer
do you cheer for?
news.
Who do you cheer for again?
The Nashville Titans. My obvious fit, blatantly obvious fit, is J.J. Watt going to Tennessee. And the reason, and stay with me. The reason I say this is blatantly obvious is we have money for him. We absolutely need an edge rusher. He played under Vrabel. He wouldn't mind sticking in division to stick it to the Texans, I feel, a couple times a year. And that's why I think it'll happen. That's me just being a homer. Outside of that, I don't know. The free agent carousel this year is going to be pretty interesting. We still haven't figured out. We know what the salary floor is going to be, which is higher than we expected it to be. So that's interesting. But there's going to be a whole lot of one-year contracts, one-year contracts with a player option. That's what I think we're going to see a lot of this season.
Yeah, and people aren't going to be so nervous to sign the franchise tag this year. I don't think either.
Oh, I don't think so at all. Yeah.
I think guys like, and since we're talking about our own teams for a second, I think a guy like Bud Dupree, if he's not getting the money that he wants because people are wondering about the injury, I could see him coming back for like a 5 or 6 year deal, or a $5 or $6 million 1 year deal with the Steelers. I mean, he's comfortable there. He doesn't have to move. He can, play another year in a defense where he's going to get opportunities to make stats. Not a problem.
Yeah.
And go make some money when things turn around. And, another guy, and this is what I was kind of leading up to before, because I told you that I think that the Steelers are going to make a big move in free agency.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you the name. And when it happens, I want you to just text me a big smiley face. It's going to be Aaron Jones to the Steelers.
Aaron Jones, really? That's interesting. Well, I guess you guys do need a run game there. It's been fucking pitiful.
It's not that they like some of the backs that they have, and they've used some picks on some of these guys in the later, like 3rd, 4th round. Okay. But this move is to plan for the departure of Ben Roethlisberger.
I can see that.
They'll get a year together, and then next year when it's Dewey or Mason Rudolph or whoever the quarterback is of the future there, he'll have a stable running back that can not only run the ball effectively, but can catch the ball. And I think that the price tag is far higher, and the biggest slap in the face is going to be to Le'Veon Bell. And I think that the Steelers kicked themselves a little bit for not wiggling on the extra. Like, I think that they were broken up over like $2 million. Like that's where the conversation broke down.
You said in the beginning, though, the Rooneys are the ones with the last call. They were standing pat.
And I'm telling you, I think that the Rooneys are going to step in and they're going to make sure that they go get Aaron Jones. Whether somebody outbids them, because the Steelers are going to have a little bit of cap issue, which I already told you how I think they're going to get out of it. Mm-hmm. If the number is right around 15 a year, I think they're fine. You'll get 15 a year for 4 years, and I don't know, guarantee them like 50 of it.
All
So
right.
guarantee like 3 years of it, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Now, speaking of people that have guaranteed money, I don't know if you saw this interesting tidbit. Devontae Parker, you know what I'm talking about? Wide receiver
Mhm.
down in Miami.
100.
Did you see the question that he was asked regards whether he would rather have Tua or Mac Jones? Did you see this?
I did not.
Without hesitation, he said Mac Jones.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
pretty interesting, right? So we'll have to see what happens down there in Miami, and that's not the first time that there's been rumblings out of Miami in regards to Tua and being the one and being the answer, right?
Yep. Yep.
And not just from the coaches, obviously, the making moves that they did, but the players. Like there's been a lot of those like unnamed sources kind of thing. So a lot of turmoil potentially to happen down in Miami still. When we all thought it was going to be honky dory. Mind you, they got all
Yeah.
these draft picks. They can make a move too. Maybe they trade for Russell Wilson. Holy hell!
Oh, I think that Russell Wilson thing is literally just started by Russell Wilson to maybe try and get a raise out of it, which is only because some of these other guys are getting paid a little bit more. And I don't think to Russ it's about the money. I think that he's a guy that has low self-esteem that needs to be the number one paid guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, other than that, I think that we are in for the craziest offseason of all time with all of the cap issues that are out there. And as you said, the cap is going down significantly. So we're going to track this. We're going to watch this like pretty adamantly. And I wouldn't be surprised if we pump out a little bit of extra content around the free agency because there's going to be so much to talk about. And we're just going to have to do it to keep up with it. And I mean, Ethan doesn't really like to talk NFL free agency with me, so I need somebody to talk to about.
Gotta get that kid in line, huh?
No doubt. But yeah, I mean, other than that, Kalen, unless there's something else that you wanted to talk
Hey,
about.
Man, I think we're going to Yellow next week, so maybe we can go swing by Joe Cool's, get some food.
Yeah. Well, the second that we go Yellow, we go back to an in-person session. Doesn't have to be all the time, but we're going to be back in person because it's going to be nice to see you guys again.
Yeah, is that the boss calling the orders right there? Folks, we got to get back to the office.
Yeah. Profit margins are slipping, so we need to get back at it. So yeah, we'll probably do it at Cool's. Amy's been bugging us to get back there anyway.
Sure.
For anyone, they are open.
Gold Blonde Queen.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus. Well, this show is deteriorated quickly, so we are going to sign off. But thanks to everybody, and once again, we miss Chad, and we miss 60% of his engagements, and we will see you again.
Maybe he's
later
gonna hit
on.
us with news tonight. Who knows?
He's already engaged. Yeah, we're good. So yeah, we'll catch up later on this week.
All right.
Later.